Welcome, everybody. This is the September meeting of the North End Neighborhood Council. We are very lucky to have Chief Moore from Tacoma Police Department as our speaker today. So we'll be trying to get through the regular business as quickly as we can to maximize the time that we have to discuss the chief's issues. Starting off on the agenda, we always mention that there are various ways to reach the North End Neighborhood Council. We have a website, we have a Facebook page, we have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we are working to try and improve our professionalism in handling those. We actually have somebody from the University of Puget Sound who's been helping us out today. So we will be getting better as we go on. We have had a couple of resignations from the board. We can have up to 15 board members. I think currently we've only got about 7. So any of you who are interested in joining the board, I don't think it's a huge commitment of time, but we are an important voice within the community, and we are an entity that's set up by the city. So if anybody is interested in joining the board, you can contact me or contact any of the board members, and we would love to see you. I have a very quick community announcement where Santa, could you come up? I'd like to introduce Santa, who's going to give a very brief announcement.
This is going to be hard because usually I talk a lot. I'm here to talk about the Tacoma Santa Parade, and this year it's Christmas around the world. We plan to come back next month and be on your agenda to come back and talk and answer questions about the parade. Right now we're out gathering sponsorships to help the parade. It's all nonprofit, and I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Santa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Santa. So Santa will be back next month with more information for us. Is there anything else on quick announcements before we move into the approval of minutes? We distributed the draft minutes of the August 1st meeting. Georgette came up with some amendments to those minutes. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Ty has motion, Jody has seconded. All in favor, say aye from this table. Thank you. Treasurer's report. Jody, would you just like to come up and speak into the camera and the microphone?
Good evening. So this will be pretty quick. We have a operating budget that stands right now at 14,000.
You have to speak into.
Sorry. We currently have a budget, operating budget of 14,950. Our expenses year to date have been 3,291. That's the treasurer's report. Any questions? The council all received the report. Can we have a motion to approve the report?
Seconded by Brad. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Now, let's move this. We're moving into liaison reports. Do we have any liaisons in the room? I thought I saw Liz. Would you like to come up and just give your report? And then we'll try to identify the liaisons that we have on the Zoom. We'll get onto that after Liz.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, and welcome everyone again to the campus of the University of Puget Sound. We're so delighted to be able to host the North End Neighborhood Council. I just wanted to briefly introduce to you my colleague, the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, Sarah Comstock. There she is. You can't see her on Zoom, but she's really here. Sarah has had already a remarkable career at the University of Puget Sound, and we're looking forward to many more years as she steps into her third year as Vice President for Student Affairs. Second, thank you. Any questions? Oh, that was brutal. Thank you. Well, yes, welcome back, students. Exactly. As you can see, places is really buzzing, and football on Saturday, rousing success. Go Loggers. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Liz. We are so lucky to be able to meet here. We really appreciate that opportunity. With respect to liaison reports, I think the combination of Labor Day that moved our meeting, plus the Seahawks playing tonight, has lightened our number of liaisons. So if we have any liaisons on Zoom, could you identify yourselves by unmuting yourself? And I seem to have lost the page. Is there anybody there, Brad?
Hello.
Do you see any liaisons on the Zoom, Brad?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
Lieutenant
Hi,
Lynn, please.
Yes, sorry, I wanted to introduce myself. My name's Mike Lim. I'm the Tacoma Police Community Policing Lieutenant for the North End. Started just a couple months ago, so I represent the 1 sector and the 2 sector. And we have Anna Braz, Officer Braz, who's also here on Zoom, and she is our one officer that we have assigned to the 2 sector right now as a community liaison officer. Anna, if you're there, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, I am here. I can get my camera to work here. There we go. Hello, nice to meet everybody. Thanks for having me.
Well, welcome to both of you. We really appreciate the support we've always had from the police department in providing us liaisons for these meetings. We'll look forward to, even when we don't have the chief here, we'll still look forward to seeing one or the other or both of you at future meetings.
Yes, we'll definitely have someone at each of these meetings in the future.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we normally have presentations or comments from one or both of our council members. Oh, yes, Sarah. Oh, now I got. Somehow I got to. We want to make Sarah the.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Rumbaugh, council member for District 2. And so I abut your neighborhood, and part of our district is part of your neighborhood council. So I live in Northeast Tacoma, but our district extends all the way to University of Puget Sound. How amazing is that? I'm just here today to let you know that we have a couple things happening at study session tomorrow that you should be aware of. One of them is we are going through budget priorities, and you should just kind of probably something to take note of. And our meetings are at noon. You can get on through Zoom. Just go to the Tacoma City Council website. The information is there. We also have an encampment ordinance, and I wish Council Member Hines were here, but he's at an event for Representative Marilyn Strickland, who's it's out in UP, so it's far away. But he said he's planning to be here, but I'm not going to steal his thunder too much, but he is sponsoring an encampment ordinance. And what it would do is we have 9 temporary sanctioned city encampments, or shelters, I should say. What that means is that we have a provider that we pay to run those. And they're like the tiny home village over on 6th and Orchard. There's one out on Proctor and 69th or 68th. And then there's one out on 84th and South Tacoma Way. So those are the kinds of things. And what it does is it says that you can either be inside the temporary shelter that we have, or you have to be 10 blocks away. And that's what it's about. The idea of it is that we want to create these 10-block circles so that other neighborhoods might change their mind about wanting to have a temporary shelter in their neighborhood because it will feel safer. You would know that there wouldn't be that element outside of the temporary shelter. And businesses will tell you that when there's an illegal encampment in their neighborhood, they have a higher level of crime. So sometimes there's people that prey on the homeless outside of these encampments. And we want to try to move that element away from the people who are inside the encampment. So I'm going to let Councilmember Hines, if he shows up, talk a little bit more about it. But I am a co-sponsor on it. And I think that we should do something rather than nothing, which is what I feel like we've been doing for a long time. And I just got on the council in January, and you're welcome to yell at me and shun me. That's okay. But I just feel like if I'm here, I should be doing things. And that's what I think you're looking for me to do as a council member, is to be active and make changes. The other thing that I think is of interest is our Tide Flats sub-area plan. And since I am in Northeast Tacoma and I am impacted daily by what happens in the Tide Flats, I really do care about the environmental impact statements and the sub-area plans that we're looking at. And I would suggest that coming to the study session will give you some information about what those proposals are. And then you'll have the lucky opportunity at our city council meeting that night to give your public comments. You're welcome to send those in also to cityclerk@cityoftacoma.org if you want to write an email, which I think is nice, but also showing up really gives the council with your words the opportunity to tell us what you think of the different choices. So those are the things I think are really relevant right now that you should be paying attention to. But if you have other questions or comments, feel free to ask me. And you're also willing to just write to me too at srumbaugh@cityoftacoma.org. Is there any questions? Yes, hi. I'm going to repeat whatever your question is. Hi, Susan. So I'm not going to give a comment on that. Well, you know what? I'm not going to say anything about that because my experience with the North Slope has been so negative that you can talk to the people who live in North Slope about why I might not be supporting that. Yes. Oh, the question was, where do I stand on the College Park Historic District designation? And that right now, the Planning Commission is making a decision, which means I don't really get to make a decision right now. But I was just telling her that because of what's happened in the North Slope, my feelings about that are rather negative. It's been a very negative experience with the North Slope. So all of the issues. She wants me to elaborate, but I'm not going to. So thank you. Yes. Hi. So the question was, with the encampment ordinance we put together, where are we getting that information from? Is that a best practice? Everett has a plan like this they've been doing, and they've had a lot of success with it. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, hi. Oh, so you asked who's the sponsor of that endorsement of the encampment ordinance? So John Hines is the sponsor, and I'm a co-sponsor with Joe Bushnell, Councilmember Bushnell. So we have 9 temporary shelters right now, the city does, of our own. And what we're looking for is other areas and other like properties that might consider letting the city use their property for, you know, an extended period of time to have a site. That would be sanctioned by the city with a provider and everything like that. Did I answer your question? Okay, thank you. Hi. Hi, Jody. You know, I don't, okay, so the question was, of our sites, how many people are we housing? And from that, what's the percentage of people taking it? And I'm gonna have to wait for Councilmember Hines. Thank you for asking that question. Yes, hi. So the question is, what happened to the houses on MLK? So what happens is we use sites for a while and they're temporary. And then we close that site and we find other areas. And so that was one of those sites where we had how tiny homes and then it went away because the person wanted to do something else with the property. Yeah. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So anybody with a specific issue that they want addressed through this group, please reach out to us in advance of the meetings. That way we're able to work out with the speakers and liaisons what it is that they're trying to, so they can answer the questions that are out there. It's now my real pleasure to introduce our speaker, Chief Avery Moore. Has come to Tacoma Police Department from Texas. And we need to, we've got Lieutenant Lim, we need to get to this one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Stuck on the main screen.
Yes, please. Perfect. Great. So Chief Moore has been here since January, I believe. He's been very prominent in the press and in the, I myself saw him on TV yesterday. So we've got a great attendance, eager to listen to every word that you give, Chief. So let's welcome Chief Moore. Oh, sorry, I just need to explain what our ground rules are for the Q&A. So in advance of this meeting, we did ask everybody if they had questions, and we got probably 20 questions that came in. Brad went through those meetings, so we didn't have any duplicates. We submitted some through to the chief. And then Brad's going to monitor those questions, and at the end of the chief's remarks, he's going to address any items that we've been aware of. If anybody on the Zoom call has questions, feel free to put those questions into the chat, which Brad is going to monitor. And if any of you in the room have questions, if you could write, there's some white sheets on the table. If you want to just write a short question and get it to Brad, then he can make sure that those get addressed time permitting. So with that, I'd like to welcome Chief Moore.
So good evening, everyone. All right, so where do I need to stand so I don't knock it out? So can y'all hear me okay? I stand this way? We're good? Okay. All right, so just a little bit about myself. I am from Dallas, Texas. I did my first 31 years in policing in Dallas. I've been here since January 18th officially. I actually kind of moved down the end of December. So just a little bit over 8 months. And I am really proud to make this announcement. Sarah is actually my council person too, because I also live in Northeast Tacoma. So let's give her a round of applause. She represents me too. Yeah, so I'm from Dallas, again, 31 years, excited to be here. I've been out in the community a lot. So if you hadn't seen me around, I apologize, I'll make it to you. My goal is, one of the promises I made is that I would not invite you to my table, I'd actually bring my table to you. So that's why I'm out in the community so much. And I love it. You know, one of the things about Tacoma, I can't say it shocked me, but I did notice how friendly and welcoming Tacoma has been to me. So I appreciate that. It's been a blast these first 8 months. We've done a lot of good things with the police department. I think we've built some trust with the community so far, and we're still building. So just really excited about that. July the 5th, we actually rolled out crime plan. And I know that was one of the questions, kind of how we're doing. Our 3 months will be over October the 5th, and November the 1st, we will actually have an analysis done by the people who actually assisted me in writing the crime plan, and we'll present that to council that day. And what that would entail, it will give exactly what we've done, how we've done, areas that we need to improve, and so forth. But really excited about that. I look at crime daily, and I measure it daily. What I tell my team is we want to win one day at a time. Some days we win, some days we lose, but the police officers, can't say enough about them. The men and women of the Tacoma Police Department have embraced me. They've embraced the plan. And part of how we measure it, it's called fidelity, which is our commitment to the plan. And our goal is 100%, but we've been operating right around 95% fidelity, which means we're highly visible at the time we're supposed to be highly visible, in the exact location that we're highly visible. And in doing that, we've seen some reduction in violent crime. Again, based on the crime plan, what I'm looking at specifically are homicides, aggravated assaults, and robberies. Those are our focus. We're going to stay focused on those. And just as ancillaries to that is property crime. We've had some significant decrease in property crime as well. So the exact numbers, again, all that stuff will be given out live November the 1st at 12 o'clock, as Sarah said, for the study session. So if you're interested in that, please tune in because it'll be a comprehensive overview of our first 90 days as it relates to the plan. So any questions about that before I move on? Okay. And let me see what the next topic was. I think it was staffing, so if you can pull it up for me. So when I got here, we were 55 officers short. Today, we're 42 officers short. We've hired 41, but we've lost, I think, 39 due to retirement, resignation. Unfortunately, had to bury 2 and had to terminate 1. So we're kind of ahead of where we were when I got here. It's a slow process, but we're being aggressive. We're projecting that we will hire more this year than we have in our history, which is great. We've submitted a retention packet to the city manager to see if we can slow down the other end, people retiring. If we can get that end to stop, then we can actually build up and get to where we need to get. I think our actual authorized strength is 362. So we're 41 shy of that, but we're doing great. You know, we're going to places, we're doing well as it relates to our lateral hires and our entry level. The difference is entry level is about a 4.5 month stint at the academy and really about a 1.5 years before we get kind of our gain, if you will, in that they can operate as a functioning full-time police officer in a squad car by themselves, et cetera. Laterals, it's about 2 weeks. I've gone through the lateral academy. It's 2 weeks. Deputy Chief Younger's gone through it. It's 2 weeks again. So that one, we get a bigger return. We're just not able to hire as many because everybody's offering a lateral package. So we're competing with all the surrounding agencies as well as across the nation. And at one time, the majority of our laterals were coming from New York City. So that's how competitive this marketing is as it relates to policing. So any questions on staffing? Yes, sir. At one time, yes. Doing just laterals, yes. Any other questions?
Chief Moore, we have a question here that relates to it, and it is, do you have any innovative ideas of recruiting from the local population?
Yeah, we actually been doing that, and I'm going to put her on the spot, but I actually brought Crystal up. She's my assistant chief. So instead of me doing all the talking, I'll let her tell you some of the things we're doing. So Chief Haskins.
Well, good evening. First and foremost, thank you all for inviting us out so that we can see you all can see us, we can get to know each other more intimately. In terms of our recruiting, we're really wanting to target minorities and women. And so before I arrived, there was someone much smarter than me, and they were able to convince the interim chief at the time, that we needed a marketing scheme. We know how to do policing, public safety. We don't really know how to do marketing. So we started a marketing campaign. We have a dedicated website for our recruitment effort. It's reflectandprotect.org. And so on there, it's putting everything that we have to offer out there. And as Chief mentioned a moment ago, we are attracting people across the country, from New York to California, LAPD, which is, for the size of those two organizations, NYPD and LAPD, for them to look at Tacoma, a mid-sized city, and us be a viable option for them is phenomenal. So, we also started doing our physical testing, where you can test to be a police officer anywhere, provided that our service provider offers the testing in that area. So we're making things a little bit more readily accessible for people that are not in the state or not in our region. We also took the 30 by 30 pledge, which is a pledge to get 30% of our workforce to be women by the year 2030. So you will see a lot of our efforts going towards trying to get more women into the profession. No offense, Chief Younger, Chief Moore, they're great, but women really make a difference in policing. We're better communicators. Can I get an amen? We're better communicators. We're a little bit more detail oriented. And sometimes we need that on the high intense scenes that we go on, where we can de-escalate those scenes a little bit better than some of our male counterparts. Not that the men can't do it. We just have to teach them, and they have to really practice a little bit harder than women do. So, and I love all of my coworkers, so I don't want you all to think that I'm speaking negatively about them. But we're doing a lot, and we need you all's help. You all have more influence in recruiting than we do sometimes. And so if you know a young person, and actually they don't have to be too young because we don't have an age limit. So if anybody's interested, we can help you apply. Anybody? No, okay. But talking about our profession, this is work that has moral content. You're helping people. It's something different every day. I know the media doesn't really paint the positive sides of our work. We rarely pull our firearms out Our biggest tool that we use is our communication skills. That's the biggest tool that we use. 90% of our job is just communicating and talking to people. So we need you all's help. We're open to any ideas. You can email me at cyhaskins@cityoftacoma.org. If you have any ideas, we do plan to hit up a lot of our collegiate campuses so that we can interface with young people here locally, because we want our talent to come from Washington and from the city of Tacoma.
So that's why I brought Crystal up here. She used to work for me until about 2 minutes ago. So I do have an assistant chief opening. She is a phenomenal lady. I met Crystal in 2013, and I've been able to follow her career as she rose from the rank of sergeant all the way up to acting chief in Little Rock, Arkansas. So when I got an opportunity to steal her, I was successful. My entire team, for that matter, I had the opportunity to build. And my idea was this: before we can be reflecting the community as a police department, the leadership has to first reflect the community. So on purpose, for the first time in our history, we have 2 female assistant chiefs. Crystal's one, Tammy Floyd is another. First time ever, we have a chief of staff, which is Curtis Hairston. And the first time in about 30 years, we have a deputy chief, which is Paul Younger. I know my entire staff intimately. You know, Curtis and I went to 5th grade together, but we kind of lost contact because, you know, both being military kids. But Paul and I worked together for 31 years. And before he comes up here and steals the story, I used to work for Paul. And he's going to tell you he taught me everything that I know. But there's a reason why I'm the chief and he's not. How about that? So I'm really proud of our leadership team. I don't refer to us as command staff anymore. I believe we have to change policing from the top through the bottom. And so far, our officers have been receptive to that. They work extremely hard. I know one of the questions, and I'm going by memory, was about legislation and some of the law changes and how that's impacted us. I will be 100% honest, always with you. It did have an impact on the police department. And it wasn't a good one. It was a negative one. And unfortunately, we had to come out of that as a team, and we've had. So what we used to do, we don't do anymore. So you shouldn't hear we can't do anything about this or we can't do anything about that, because what I task my team with is what we can do. And we can always do something, even if it's a little thing. It's much better to do a little thing than to say we can't do nothing. So I hadn't heard it as much as I used to hear it when I first got here. So if you hear that, it's not true. Just kind of press a little bit and say, well, tell us what you can do, and put it back on that playing field, and you should get some sort of response. At bare minimum, we can write a report. Again, that little thing is much better than we can't do anything. Associated with that was responding to calls. We respond to calls that we're dispatched to. I hadn't completely wrapped my head around how we do it here in Tacoma, because where I'm from, the dispatch center actually works for the police department and officers work in there. So it's a lot actually. It's a lot easier to kind of manage and navigate through that. But here it's completely independent. So what I've learned is a lot of times we don't show up to a call because we've never been dispatched to the call, which is what it is. So it's not us not coming per se. If an officer gets a call, he will show up. Now, there is a priority system. And if you're at a 4 on the priority system, it's going to take a lot longer to get to your call because the priority 1s and 2 take precedent. Does that make sense? And those are your more serious violent crimes. So again, be patient with us as we go through this transition. Our goal is to service you the best way that we can. And that will always be my goal. So those are the only questions I kind of remember. So are there any questions about anything? Yes, ma'am. So,
I'm
so
going to repeat that real quick. Where does property crime fit within your response? Is that right?
it's kind of the same criterion. So there's different levels, meaning that if it's a felony in the act, it goes up to a priority 1. If it's something where you came home and you say, hey, my car was broken into, and I'm going to go from my memory, they say, what time did that happen? And you say, well, I've been gone for a week, so I really don't know. It could have been Monday. I'm back on Saturday. That's not going to go up. That's going to be at a level 4. So the response to that will be slower. Does that make sense? Or they may call you back and say, hey, you can actually report this yourself online. So you may not get an officer at all. Okay. Any other questions?
Here's another question here. We're just gonna go through these quick and then we can get to yours. Actually, if you have questions, you got to bring them over to me. Remember, that's our process. So bring them over to me and I'll speak them in. So first question here that was addressed earlier is, what ideas and policies are you interested in applying in Tacoma from your experience serving in Dallas?
So good question. And I will tell you none. I'm more interested in what's best practice. And what we do in Dallas, it's kind of, you can't really compare because Dallas is the 9th largest police department in the country. Tacoma, we're not. So I don't do that. I really am interested in what's best practices, and then parallel to that, what I believe will work here. That's why I created a crime plan specifically for Tacoma. So you can't take this plan and apply it somewhere else because it's all evidence-based, data-driven. So you have to have specifics to even create a crime plan. So I'm about best practices, and then we as a team will look at that and figure out what we believe will work in Tacoma.
Second question is, what actions can homeowners take to minimize crime in their neighborhoods?
Man, that's a really good question. So hadn't got this off the ground yet because I still have to make one addition to my executive team, but I want to start our volunteers in patrol. And what that is where you'll sign up, we'll put you through some training. It's roughly about 4 to 5 hours. 1 month out every Saturday, he will offer this course and we will show you the meaning of, if you hear something, say something. Because there's a right way to do it and then there's a wrong way to do it. So I want to start with that, get training out so you'll know what's important, what is a viable tip, and how to contact us and why that's important. Because if we're not aware, then typically what happens is the narrative goes out that the police department doesn't care. And I can assure you that's not the case. So when he gets here, hopefully the next month or so, he's going to have to hit the ground running and we'll get that course up. Something else is Citizens in Patrol. We just started a course last Wednesday. We have about 34 people in that course. I would recommend any of you to go through that. It's phenomenal. It will teach you directly use of force, why we use the force we use, and it'll walk you kind of through bits and pieces of everything that officers are trained in. It's a 12-week course, is that right? Yeah, it's a 12-week course every Wednesday night. So I would highly recommend that too, because what I don't want you to do is do something that puts you in a position to where you feel unsafe, because then we're failing as a team, because basically we all have to partner and work together. But I want to make sure that we do our part in making sure you're getting some training so you know, again, if you hear something, say something, how to do that the most effective way.
Thank you. Next question we have listed here already is, what is your response and plan to action to respond to homelessness in Tacoma?
So I think that was a better question for Sarah, and she kind of touched on that. They're doing something tomorrow. Tune in and listen to it. Homelessness, you know, it's a big issue here. You know, when I compare from where I'm from and where I'm here, the difference is the intensity of the camps. I've never seen it here anywhere else, save maybe Austin. So I don't know what the right answer is for that. I just know that there has to be some humanity attached to it, because, you know, a lot of the people who are suffering from homelessness have other issues, drug issues being one of them. And that's dear to me because I have a brother that's addicted, and he's been addicted since 17 on up, and he's older than me. So that's something that I think is going to take all of us working collaboratively together. It's actually part 2 of my crime plan, to where we work together as a team to address not just homelessness, but that's a piece of it. Because I think it has to be done the right way. Because the wrong way, the impact of that can be catastrophic. And I don't think anybody wants that. I get to where it can be annoying, and I understand that, especially from the seat I'm in, because, you know, when I look at crime and I analyze it, I recognize that not only are there victims, but there's some predators in that group as well. So we got to figure out again how we can all work together to address this big problem with all these small rooted issues in them.
Thank you. Final question. I'm going to move on to some questions that have been brought to me, and then we'll look at some online as well. In what ways can North End neighbors support our police force?
The easiest way to do it, and this is probably going to sound like a cliche, is just say thank you when you see an officer. You know, I don't think that we get the thank you and honor that they deserve, because most of the stuff that's on the news is always negative. You know, that's a whole different argument. But I know a thank you. I just was telling my staff today, no one gets tired of a thank you. You know, I say thank you for the work that I read that they're doing, because I think that's how you actually motivate others, because we're all alpha in policing, right? But a thank you can actually change how we feel in that moment, which is what we're trying to do, change moments by moments by moments. And then you'll have a police department that's highly motivated because they feel accepted and wanted by the community. So that's where I would start. Simple thank you, which is free.
Well, personally, I'm thankful for you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, this is a question that was brought to us here, and it is after Vivaldi, which of course is in Texas, and unfortunately other school shootings, has the Tacoma Police Department taken actions to ensure a higher level of preparation and coordination to protect Tacoma's schools?
Yes, and I'm going to let my Deputy Chief Younger answer that question.
First off, and I'd like to say thank you for having us here today. My name is Paul Younger. Like Chief said, I did work with Chief Moore in my former assignment for about 30 years. And he said it best. I taught him everything he knows. No, but on a serious note, I looked at him about 25 years ago and said, there's something in you that I see. One day I'm going to work for you. And I had no idea God had a plan that it would be in Tacoma, Washington. We're honored here to be here and serve. The specific question was, are we doing anything in preparation with our schools? And the short answer is yes. The longer answer is yesterday, the school board just approved our agreement to have officers as an umbrella over the school in addition to their security guards in the school. For the start of school, we had officers assigned to schools so that they could be there as a presence. And Chief Haskins and I went out actually to an elementary school to greet the kids on their first day. And the other thing that we did yesterday in turnout training at our details is we had a active shooter response. So if there is a, heaven forbid, a incident at the school, we'll be ready. We're also partnering with the school system. So every officer has access. One of the issues they learned at Uvalde, they couldn't get in. The shooter got in because a door was left open. When the officers got there, it delayed them getting in. So we're working on having every officer have access to their key badges so we can get in and at least help children.
Appreciate that. Next question here is, people are saying that Hosmer is a lost cause. Could you talk about efforts there to bring law and order to this area?
Yeah, so let me say this clear. Hosmer is not a lost cause. We've done incredible since July 5th on Hosmer. We shut down, or we're in the process. It's not completely shut down, the Econo Lodge. We've had at least 2 camps moved, and we do a lot on Hosmer. I can't reveal everything because some of it's covert, but it's not a lost cause. I read that article. I didn't like it. And they never called me to ask me for my input. So boo on them. But it's not fair for the people that live over there. I've walked through that neighborhood several times. We've had several turnouts actually in the field over there. I visited the hospital over there, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a community that just needs some attention. And we've given them attention and we're going to continue to do so. It's unacceptable for what's been going on over there. And we as a police department will accept some of that blame, but not all of it, because we have to keep in mind that the people that are breaking the law are the ones that should be held accountable for that, and not just saying it's the police department, because it's not us that are breaking the law, but we are addressing it aggressively, and we're going to continue to do so. But it's not a lost cause at all. So don't believe everything you read.
Thank you. For those with monitored home alarms, what can we expect from the Tacoma Police Department as a response, if any? And then there is a thank you.
So I don't really think I'm tracking that question. You have a
So-
home alarm?
So they have a home alarm, it
Mhm.
goes off. What can they
Oh,
expect?
you left
in-
that part out. It
What
goes
can they
off.
expect in
Okay.
regards to the police response?
So it kind of all depends, right? Because typically that's routed to your service. So say you have Xfinity, it will go to Xfinity, they'll do whatever they do. And there's a delay because typically they'll call back the house. And if someone answers, you're supposed to give them a magic code, whatever that code is. But if no one answers, I don't know how many times they call, then it's routed. So there could be a delay. And it kind of all depends on what the comments are. Because again, if it's something that's in progress, that goes up. But if it's just an alarm going off and there's really no explanation for it, it could be at a 4, which means if it's dispatched, we'll get to it. It's just not a priority. So it really depends on the comments.
Thanks. This is in regards to homelessness. Do we have camp sweeps for warrants? Is the question.
Do we have camp sweeps for warrants? No. And here's why. We don't want the appearance to be that homelessness is criminal, because it's not. And the problem is everything works now off perception and optics. So if we go into a camp, one, there's no way we could say it was warrants because we don't know who's in the camps. So that would be a form of zero tolerance policing, which I don't believe in, because you may have a small impact, but it's catastrophic over the long run. So there's really no feasible way to do that. And being candid again, if a police department said, yeah, we're running warrants in a homeless camp, they're lying to you. Because how do you know who's there? You have no idea, because it's not like that tent is registered anywhere as a home.
I think this question was already addressed, but I'm going to ask it just because it was handed to me. What are you doing to recruit more candidates when your profession is having trouble nationwide recruiting people in your field? So maybe what are we doing differently in Tacoma that other folks might not be doing?
So we're going to line up at the door and have all you guys sign up as you exit. What Crystal said is true. You know, our goal or our criterion is to hire good people, and we believe we can make you a good officer. You have to want to do this. This is not like I want to work at a Burger King or Taco Bell to get through college. This is more of a career, and it's a dangerous career. So we want to hire the right people that have love in their heart. Because if you don't love this job, you won't love the people you serve, and you won't love the people that you work with, which is a requirement for me. It's why I'm in this profession. You know, I believe the root of all policing has to be love. And without that, you won't be successful. And what you'll have is a lot of lawsuits. You'll have a lot of officers doing horrible things. And we're not going to do that here in Tacoma. So again, for me, it's about a good person with a good heart wanting to do good work and serve a community. And again, we'll be lined up out there. So don't try to run by.
I hope you're a great judge of character then. Any chance to hire staff that are not full-fledged police officers to fill some needs?
So the city council and the local government, the mayor, city manager, they're working on it. I think it's called, what's this? CSOs, which is, what's it stand for?
Community service officer.
Yeah, community service officer. So they won't be commissioned, or to be a partial commission or something like that. But I know they won't be armed. and they will answer those calls that are nonviolent, probably kind of more property oriented. But they're working on that kind of as we speak.
Thank you. Next question is grab and go thefts. Any improvements? Common talk is let them take it. Don't do anything so you don't get harmed. People are frustrated with that. Any
Yeah,
comments?
here's why that's important. Number one, it's property. And it's not worth you risking your life over a bag of potato chips, if you will. It's more important for us that you get a nice, good description of the person who's causing the theft and you go home safely. Because I know it's irritating. When I was a young person, I worked at 7-Eleven. And I remember 2 guys came in and they stole 2 cases of beer and I took off running after them. And when I got around the corner, they shot at me and I stopped and I said, "This ain't my beer." And I turned around and ran back in and I was like, I hope they don't come back. But if they do, I'm gonna have a sign that say beer is free if you have a gun. And my point is that I had to realize the smarter thing was for me to get a description and not to try to protect property that's not mine. So fast forward, a friend of mine, she actually got shot. She worked at the 7-Eleven too, and she still has a bullet lodged in her shoulder. And she would tell you if she had it to do all over again, she would have did what I did, just let them go, and just became a good witness. So that's what I would recommend. I know it's frustrating, I do, but remember your life is more important than property, even money, because the reality is it's not your money either. So there's no reason to lose your life over it. And then the saddest thing is the company may or may not really even care about you. And you put your life on the line for them and everything's a fight after that. So I would recommend, as the question was read, that you do not put your life on the line for property.
It's frustrating, but it's a good perspective. Thank you. Are there officers assigned to reviewing the crimes that are reported online? Businesses report crimes online often, but are interested in learning if there will be follow-up when it is reported online.
Yes. And based on the crime, there is follow-up. One, we have to make sure it meets the elements of an offense, because some things that you may think are actually offenses, they could be, you just didn't write it in such a way that we can actually act on it.
Have you added some staff to make phone calls on theft related to mail and porch theft? And Bonnie's saying that she has not heard from anyone.
So I don't hire for that. I hire to have more officers. Again, we're short 41. So once we get to 41, they will probably all be in patrol, because that's where the biggest hit is. But I'm also short in other areas throughout the police department. But I have to start with patrol because that's pretty much the biggest pool and where most of the work is done. But I don't hire for specific things because one, you can't do that anyway. We have to train officers to be officers, and they really have to get in patrol to really solidate their training. So I will never be able to say I hired her for this and him for that. That's not how it works in policing.
Thank you. Sarah's asking, does Tacoma have a platform to register bike VINs and photos to expedite reporting if a bike is stolen?
That's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. Lieutenant Lim, do you know the answer to that?
Hey, Chief. So I was previously in CID. So if anyone does have a VIN, we don't have a program specifically for that, but when you do file your report, if it does have a VIN or any other type of serial number attached to it, then we can better track it down. For example, if it gets pawned or sold on some of these other online platforms, we can track it down with those specific identifying numbers.
We are in the process of developing a program for catalytic converters, to where it won't be, I don't know what they're going to stencil on it, but they're going to stencil some number on it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's to come. But for bicycles, hadn't even heard that that was an issue yet. So thank you, Mike, for answering that question for me.
Here's one that relates to the north end. Habitually in the north end, people drive 10 miles over the speed limit in the north end consistently. Is it not a priority to curb speeding? If it is, what ideas and actions does our police department have to curb speeding? It's kind of a cultural thing where it's posted 30 and everyone goes 40, right?
You want to answer that too, Deputy Chief? Thank you, Don.
We do have a traffic unit that does traffic enforcement, and about 2 Sundays ago, I talked to one officer. He tried to stop 7 vehicles on a Sunday. Of the 7, 6 took off, 6 evaded. By law, we can't pursue for speeding. So the one that did stop, ironically, was a school student that was out of town. But we do have that. If you guys have addresses or locations where speeding's an issue, let us know. Let your CLOs know. And I do have a list of CLO contact information. If you don't know your CLO, which is your link between our department and your community, if you have chronic issues like that, those need to be reported to us. Non-emergency things need to be reported through 311. Emergency things need to be reported through 911.
Relates to those folks that are taken off. How do you plan to effectively respond to street racing in Tacoma and curb this trend?
So that's a good question. And again, you guys have figured out I'm pretty candid. We've done wonderful as it relates to speed racers. We've made over 70, I think 9 arrests. And our tactics have just been more covert. And we haven't had the problem this summer that a lot of other agencies have had. Our philosophy, again, is to work really smarter. And that's what we've been able to do. I can't share it with you because it's a covert operation, but we're continuing to run that. And then we'll actually, I think we're due to reevaluate that in October. But we've been running a task force on the weekends since about mid-March, and just outstanding results from not only arrest, we're talking about these chronic offenders. Several of them, we arrest them and they're charged with 13, 14 different offenses throughout, if you will, the Metroplex area. So we've been doing great there.
Thank you. Next question is, does the department support the use of speed cameras?
So being a victim of one once in my life, I don't know. No, really, speed actually does kill. So I hadn't done any research, so I don't know how, what's the word? Yeah, effective and correct they are. So I would have to look at all that to see. But I'm not opposed to any good idea. I know there's like a speed sign when I go home. And if you're going too fast, it'll turn red, then it'll say slow down. And I've seen that have an impact because you see people hit the brakes. So from that perspective, I think there's some value. But again, I got a ticket, so I was only a kid too. But I can do some research in that.
I lived in the UK for 2 years. They're everywhere and you just get mail all the time and it's frustrating. A lot of surprises. Here's a hard one. The reputation of the Tacoma Public Police Department and Tacoma itself has been damaged by the Manny Ellis issue. How do you intend to address this?
So the trial takes place in January. I believe it's the end of January. And I believe we have to let the judicial system do what it's intended to do. So after that, based on the outcome of that, I'll be ready to address it, but I'm not going to address it until then, because right now, I think that's more important, that the officers get a fair trial and the judicial system works. So we'll just kind of wait and see how that turns out.
Is the Pierce County Jail able to take people in, or are people still being released within hours due to COVID restrictions? And that's from Sarah H. online.
So that's 2 questions. Do they take people? Yes. When they get out, I have no determination on that at all, and neither do my officers. When I got here, I met with Chief Jackson, and she was always receptive to our crime plan, and to the fact that she understands we do have to arrest people, which we do. So we're able to arrest people. The jail accepts them. And then after that, it's up to the judges to determine how long they stay, when they get out, et cetera. That does have an impact on officers, but we can't let that deter us. Our job is to make the city safe, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Thank you. Those are all of our questions so far. Do we have another one? Yeah. Not gonna ask that one. Do we have any other questions in here? Chief Moore? Where's
You have
Peter?
one in the back. Oh. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, actually, it's not a priority right now based on the crime plan, but in phase 2, it becomes a priority. Because it's kind of like the broken window theory. If you leave stuff up, people feel emboldened to continue to do it. So as we get to that phase of the plan, hopefully together, all of us, we can figure out a way to erase some and send a strong message that we don't want it. So again, right now, it's not a priority simply because we're still in phase 1. But as we move into phase 2, it will become a priority. Yes, ma'am. Well, welcome to Tacoma. Yeah, Lieutenant, you want to take that question?
I couldn't hear the question.
Can you give her a mic or repeat it?
So the question is, do mental health professionals engage when needed?
Yeah, so currently we have one designated response co-responder that's assigned to the community liaison officers for the north, but she's available for patrol and through the south end as well. So she does go out on a daily basis with our CLOs and officers at their request when they come across an individual that's in some type of mental health distress. And she has the skills and the professional knowledge to help deal with those individuals and to access certain facilities if needed. And we are in the process of trying to get additional ones, but right now we just have one that's working throughout the week.
Any other questions? Yeah, they don't work. So what I'm used to, maybe this to add clarity to it, is I was a sergeant over dispatch. So the dispatch center was in the city hall building in the basement, but they actually answered to the police department. So I was a sergeant, and even though some of our dispatchers were civilian, they still fell under the umbrella of the police department. Here, it's not that way. And that's the biggest difference. It's completely independent. And I'm going to speculate a little bit. It could be because it's regional, because they handle all Pierce County. And we had our own independent dispatch unit where I'm from. Yes. So there was 2 sides. One side was police, the other side was fire, and they would just route it over. Any other questions?
Another question online. When the law was changed to no police pursuit, did that come from state government?
As far as I know, yes. But I think that was kind of I don't know if it was a national interest or not, but where I'm from, we have the same policy. That's why I'm comfortable with it. The reality is people shouldn't be emboldened to run just a traffic stop, but they are. Didn't have that problem where I'm from, because typically the lights come on, people pull over. So that was a new kind of phenomenon for me to learn here. But we're not going to chase you because you're speeding. Because when I look at the impact of a crash, it's hard for me to explain to a family why some driver ran into the back of them and killed their whole family. And I've had to do that before. It's not a good experience. So I'm in support of our policy. I think you should pursue violent offenders. And if they commit violence, then we need to pursue them because we have to keep in mind the safety of the entire community. And if someone's out killing people, we just can't let them go. But if someone's speeding, it's just not worth it when you think about the impact that a crash could have. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Absolutely. I met with the colonel. How long has it been now? It was in April. It was in April. He came to my office and met with him. We constantly recruit there. It's just keep in mind, recruiting one thing, actually getting people on the line can be a little more difficult because really it kind of comes down to the highest bidder. We're all after the same people, rightfully so. So the individual really has to kind of weigh based on his family situation, et cetera, which department that he wants to work for. We can do a little bit better, but absolutely we have a relationship.
And incentives for military personnel.
Yeah, thank you.
Incentives for military personnel, if they are to join the police department.
Hello, Chief Moore.
Hi.
So we are very fortunate in this area that we do not have the incident of violent crime that are experienced in other parts of the city. However, we are seeing crime that we haven't seen before. Is there a list of what we should be doing insofar as making sure that we are not encouraging through leaving things in your car, for example, but is there like a checklist for neighborhoods, for residents to go evaluate as far as kind of how they have secured their property and that sort of thing?
So where I'm from, I'm used to that. We would give out like holiday safety tips and spring safety tips and summer safety tips. So I don't know if we have that here, but we'll get around to it. I just had our team create our first public safety announcement. Was it last week? Last week. So we're going to start doing things like that because those are things you can do. Because sometimes we're inviting, we'll leave our purse in the front seat or exposed in the car somewhere, our laptops, those things that people look for when they walk by your car. So if you could at bare minimum, either put them in your trunk and lock them up or take them with you, that's just easy safety tips there.
Thank you.
And I thought I saw a hand somewhere over here. Nope. All righty, I'll end with this. Thank you so much for inviting me and my team out. We absolutely love this community and we're committed to making it as safe as we can make it. My goal is a big goal. I believe we can be the safest city in the country, but I'm not naive. We all have to be willing to work together. And we can't finger point. Again, don't believe everything you read or see in the news because they have an independent agenda. And what I've learned in my 32 years of doing this, the worse the story, the more publicity it gets. The police department, the men and women work extremely hard, and they do that because they care about you and they care about this community. And my heart is for you. I want us to be safe everywhere we go, no matter if it's summer, winter, fall, spring, we should all, and we have the right to feel safe. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Well, I know that I feel much better having listened to the chief and his team. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you, City Council, for choosing such a great candidate. And Sarah, you did have one issue. One of the questions was about graffiti, and I think, Sarah, you had an answer on that.
Again, thanks Chief Moore and your team for being here tonight. I just so appreciate them. They show up everywhere in town and it's just wonderful to have such a supportive police team. Somebody asked a question about graffiti and I wanted you to know that we actually, as a city council, are looking at an excise tax that would take the Tidy Up Tacoma and some of the other things that we've been doing in different departments, and I'll put it in one place so we can have a better response to the litter pickup as well as to the graffiti. And I feel like because it's in several different departments, it doesn't get the response it deserves. So we are addressing that in our next budget. And I wanted you to know that because you had asked that question. It's such a good question. And there was also a question about speed limits. And we have a Vision Zero program that we put forward and passed as an ordinance. And coming in January, when you're driving on a city street that's supposed to be 25 miles per hour, the speed limit will be posted at 20 miles per hour. And we actually will be enforcing that. The police will be enforcing that. So I hope that will help make us a safer city. That is the number one thing, is speed is what kills. And if we can get people to slow down, if you get hit as a pedestrian, your chances of surviving are much higher if the person's going slower. So I just wanted to answer those two questions for you. So thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I'm sorry that Councilmember Hines wasn't able to make it, but he always comes. So we will give him a bye today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So going back to the agenda, do we have any old business to address or any new business to address? If not, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Obviously, we were a little light on liaisons and sorry, Jody. Those of you who have been following us, you may be familiar with the Proctor Neighborhood Plan, and there is a planathon, which is the start of that, and that date was September 28th, and we will put that on our website and on our Facebook page as well. So thank you very much for attending. The police chief and his team have already left, but I would just say that was fabulous. And I think if only the rest of Tacoma could hear what we heard tonight, there would be a lot more confidence in how we're dealing with crime. So thank you very much. Good night.